Hello and welcome to a bit of a spiritual concept on the edge. Yeah, I know the title of the video gave it away already. So what we have here is the Kansept Spirit knife. All right, let's lay that down a little bit, speak a bit about the knife before I do the usual, which is dimensions, materials, and then design and attributes. The designer of this knife, Kim Ning. So Kim Ning was the former Kaiser production manager and designer, and he is the guy that then broke away from Kaiser Knives to form the company Kansept Knives. So this then one of his designs. Right, so a little bit about the knife and about the designer. So let's dive into those dimensions then. No, we'll do the materials first. I forget my own order of things. Right, materials first. Blade we have CPM S35VN. Handle titanium. The clip is titanium. The screws are all stainless steel. Backspacer is titanium. And then we have a pivot that is a ceramic ball bearing. Right, now let's do dimensions. Dimensions we've got blade length of 88.9 millimeters or 3.5 inches. Blade thickness, quite a stout blade, 4.06 millimeters or 0.16 inches. Handle thickness, we've got 13 millimeters or 0.51 inches. Handle length is 119 millimeters or 4.68 inches. And then overall length of this guy is 209.55 millimeters or 20.95 centimeters, I suppose. And that is 8.25 inches. And then weight, I've got the stated weights, but as I always do, I will check that on my scale. Let's pop that on and get it nicely centered up. Rightio. Is that straight? Looks like it. Get it on. What are we on? We're on grams. So let's look. Feels like quite a weighty knife, actually. So we've got 136 grams, slightly lighter than their stated weights that I had written down here. They've got 138.3, and I'm laughing because I wrote you 138.3 kilograms. I don't think so. Okay, so 136 grams on my scale. That would be impressive. And then let's see, that is 4.8 ounces. Oh, that's bang on. It's interesting. So their grams and ounces don't match up because I've got 4.8 ounces. Anyway, let's not linger on that too much. 136 grams. Right, is that it? Those are all the hard specs. Let's speak about the knife. Good looking knife, well put together as well, and quite stout, as I said. So the blade shape here, interestingly, they being Kansept, on their website, describe this as a modified Warncliffe. I probably would have erred towards modified sheep's foot, but then interestingly enough, there's a few options, there's a few variations on this knife that I'll speak about in a second. And on one of the variations on it, where the outline of the blade is exactly the same, they actually describe that one as modified sheep's foot, interestingly enough. So it would seem that even Kansept's not completely sure what to call this blade. But I've got another knife out here, and I'm going to use this. Well, I may as well do it now, but this is the Kaiser Rogue. So yeah, the mother company for Kim Ning. And that to me is more of a typical Warnie. And that, like I say, I would probably describe that more as a modified sheep's foot. In fact, I've got another knife that is very, very similar to that. And I'm going to pull it out a little bit later for size comparisons, but it's this guy. One of my favorite knives, actually, the Fox Pelican. And the Fox Pelican, you can see actually the overall shape of the knife very similar, but more specifically speaking about that blade. Now, that blade's very, very similar to this one. Let's angle that so you can get the light on it. And this Fox described as a modified sheep's foot. So like I say, I would probably go with that. I'll show this knife a little bit later when we do size comparisons again. So getting back to that, I would say modified Warnie, I should say modified sheep's foot rather than Warnie. The finish on that blade is satin, really very nice finish, very neatly done. The standard, the fit and finish on this knife is really superb. So satin finish on that, and you've got quite a deep belly on the blade. The edge on this knife, by the way, very, very tidily done. Uniform, neat, pretty sharp out of the box. A little bit of detail on that blade. Well, let's just speak about the ricasso quickly. So you can see that sort of swooping ricasso that leads from the sharpening choil, and that definitely is a sharpening choil and not a finger choil. So you've got a little plunge line, the ricasso, and then that swoops forward, follows the shape of the blade. We've got a flat grind blade on that. And what else do I need to say? Right, let's just speak about the spine. That's what I was going to speak about just now. The spine, you can see that little bit of extra detail on the spine of the knife, also very neatly done. So almost a little bit of scalloped type machining on the spine. No jimping on the blade at all. In fact, no jimping on the knife at all. No jimping on this knife to be found anywhere. Right, I think I've covered everything on the blade. Well, let's speak a little bit about the markings on the blade. So you can see we've got the Kansept logo, and then there, if I can stop the reflection at any angle, but right there where my finger is, that's where you've got the blade steel. We've got the model number etched onto the ricasso where my finger is. And then on the other side, we've got the actual model name of the knife, Spirit, etched onto the blade there. So those are all the markings on this blade. Right, let's speak a little bit about the handle. So quite an elegant design to this. You can see the general shape, that sort of drop of the handle, which does make it very comfortable in hand, and quite a smooth, well, not quite a smooth, a very smooth finish to that, sort of a bead blasted finish, that gray of the titanium handle. And then we've got this machining. You can see the machining on the, I guess, the spine of the handle. So where your palm would go, we've got a little bit of a beveled edge, but it's slightly hollow ground. And as the light catches that, you can see it. But also very beautifully done, very neatly done. And as I said, quite an elegant touch to the handle. And then we've got that same kind of hollow machining along that side of the handle as well. So in general, overall, if you look at the shape of the handle from the end, you can see that the whole handle does have a rounded shape, and that does feel then very good in hand. No hot spots on the knife, but also no jimping, as I mentioned before. So you've got no real purchase for your thumb on the knife or for your hand on the knife anywhere. So you would, in heavy use, I think your hand's going to slide around a little bit, especially if you start getting a bit clammy, if it's a hot day and you're a little bit sweaty. So, yeah, there it is. Size of the knife, you can see not a small knife. So there's my medium-sized hands. As I mentioned in my other reviews, I wear a large glove, and you can see I very comfortably fit onto the knife. Plenty space to spare for my hands. So bigger hands, you are going to fit on here as well. I mentioned that sharpening choil, definitely not a finger choil, so you can't really choke up on the knife, and it does force you, because of you've got the choil that leads into the flipper. I didn't actually speak about the flipper just now. So you've got the flipper there, which is a finger guard, a finger protection. But when you hold the knife like that, you can see it actually pushes your hand quite far from the blade, and there's no way of actually choking up closer to that blade. I think that's a little bit different on this other knife. I think this knife, yeah, you see it allows you, look at the distance on that knife, so you don't have the flipper, obviously. This has got the thumb tabs, but that allows your hand, the general shape, allows your hand to get much closer to the blade. So even when you're on the handle, you are, in effect, choking up on the blade in this instance, while on this knife, it does push your hand further from that blade. I must say, I prefer the way that Fox has done it. Nevertheless, it does feel really good in hand. Right, what else on the handle? So let's speak about the backspacer. So the titanium backspacer, very neatly, crisply done, crisp lines, beautifully finished off, and the fit and finish there really good. The way that the backspacer and the lanyard hole fit into that cutout in the handle, into the frame, also very, very neatly done. Nice work there. Right, what else? Pocket clip. Let's speak a little bit about the pocket clip. So we've got, and this is quite interesting, so we've got a tip up, not a particularly deep carry, so it is a milled titanium clip, but very, very neatly done. You can see those screws are deeply countersunk into that milled clip, and a little bit of a flat edge on it there. But while the clip is mounted quite high on the knife, when you're holding it at this angle, you can see from the side that that in pocket, there's a lot of the knife that's actually going to be sticking out. You're obviously going to be seeing the pocket clip as well. But what was interesting about this is that it is actually reversible, and you can see that you've got the flat point there with the holes. But why that's interesting / strange is you can see that the pocket clip is angled to follow the shape of the handle. Now, if you had to take that pocket clip and put it onto that side, that angle actually is not going to, well, actually it's going to be the other way around, isn't it? But it's not going to follow the handle very nicely. It's going to be a little bit at odds with that side, because it is shaped specifically for the lock side. Now, in the box, I didn't see an extra pocket clip. Normally, when you've got a shaped pocket clip that's more specific to one side and it is reversible, you'd get a spare pocket clip. Now, in the box that I've got, and nice box, by the way, there was no extra pocket clip. And while I'm speaking about that, so that's the Kansept pouch that you get in the box, very beautifully done. And then it's got this is Kansept's typical way of doing a box. It's that sort of slidey box. It's got like a satin velvety finish to the box as well. So nice packaging. But the point I'm making is there was no spare pocket clip. So it is reversible, but it's not really going to follow the lines of the knife when you switch it to the other side. But reversible nevertheless. Quite a short pocket clip as well. So quite often you'll see on a knife, the pocket clip will stretch onto the lock. You can see that this actually stops short of the lock. The lock itself, standard fare. You've got your stainless steel insert. So you've got the stainless steel on stainless steel lockup. It's got the over travel stop on it. What I did find interesting and a nice touch is quite often on a knife, you'll see on the inside of the frame there where you've got the lock, that inside edge is not finished off. And in this particular case, it's almost like it's been sandblasted or bead blasted. So that's nice that they did actually focus on doing something on that edge. Quite often in a knife, you'll just see the sort of rough grind lines on the inside. And then if you look now deep into the belly of the knife, let's grab my torch here. You might be able to see it without the torch. So the inside of the lock now, you can see that the lock is now sitting in its locked position, so you can see it there on the inside of the knife. The same thing is done there. So it's also got this rough bead blast or sand blast finish to that. I did say sand blast just now, did I? Well, that's what I meant. So it's got that finish on it. And while we're there, you can see on the inside of that frame, that frame has also been milled to save a little bit of weight on this knife. And that's done on both sides, on the lock side and the show side. You can see the milling there. Right, what else is there to say? I mentioned that the screws are all stainless steel, so that's really nicely done. So that pivot screw / cap stainless steel, but also nicely machined, well finished off, the same on both sides. So you've got the Torx hole on both sides of that. And I think that covers off everything in terms of the design of the knife. What I do need to mention, and I mentioned that a little bit earlier on, I alluded to that when I was speaking about the shape of the blade. There are a number of options. In fact, not a number. There's six. There's 6 options, including this one on the knife. So you've got one with a complete carbon fiber handle, and that one is a frame lock knife, also with the satin finish blade. Then you've got one that is on the show side is titanium with a carbon fiber inlay, and that one's very attractive with the same blade. Then you've got a titanium handle in a teal finish. They call teal, blue to you and I. But it is teal, and that has a black stonewash blade. And then you've got the 2 versions that actually have a slightly different blade. So you've got one with the also anodized titanium in that teal color, with a black stonewash blade as well. But it has a hole. It has sort of a thumb hole cut into that ricasso area of the blade, and it still has also the flipper tab and that scalloped finish. And then the exact same knife as I've just described in this color, gray with a satin finish. So there are the all the options on the knife. And as I mentioned that, I didn't mention the flipper. So let's just speak about that. So that flipper, quite a big flipper, beak-shaped almost flipper on it, and even that doesn't have any jimping on it. Not an issue because it does stand out so far, so you're easy to get hold of it and flip it out. Action on the knife, really good, exceptional action. It is very, very smooth, and it is a drop shuddy blade as well, so you can see that. Beautiful. So let me just pause here quickly and just say thanks once again to Blades and Triggers, another knife from them on loan for me to look over for a few days, form an opinion, and then share that with you. Really do appreciate their support of the channel, allowing me to remove knives from their shop almost at will. I really do appreciate that. So, thank you to Blades and Triggers. Check out their site for knives like this and others, their website BNT Online. Right, let's, I suppose all that's left really to do is size comparisons. So let's lay that down there. I'll go through the ones that I always use and then go back to those other two knives that I showed just now, or at least one of them anyway. Right, so we've got, and that's Cooper, the Bull Terrier, having a little bit of a chat in the background there. He's telling me to wrap it up. Hey, Coops, wait now. Not your turn now, okay? I'm just going to carry on. Let him comment as I'm going. So what we have here is the getting distracted now. This is the Spyderco Manix 2. You can see those two knives very, very, very similarly sized. No, it's enough. Yeah, I'm looking at you. Sorry, that's I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to Cooper. So, there is the Spyderco Manix 2, very, as I said, very, very similarly sized, similar weight as well. And then I've got, what else is this here? Those are his footsteps in the back that you're hearing as well, by the way. We've got the Medford Slim Midi with a bit of fluff flying out of it as I flip it open. Those two knives also very, very similarly sized knives. So it gives you an idea of how this will EDC if you're comfortable with those other knives. Weight-wise, again, well, they would be similar because this the Slim Midi is similar-ish to the Spyderco Manix 2. Right. The Slim Midi is slimmer, go figure. Right, that one, and then the other knife that I use, again, as I always say, because I think so many people will know this knife because it's been around in the land for so long, and that is the Benchmade Mini Barrage. Right, give you a sense of that. Then I'm going to pull that other one of the other knives, as I said, and this is the Fox Pelican. I mentioned that this is, I've had this knife for quite a while, but remains one of my favorite knives. And you can see this blade steel N690 just by the way, but you can see those two knives extremely similar in overall shape and concept, I guess. That one came first, by the way. Just give you a sense of that. That's a stonewash blade, and it's got G10 and a stainless steel liner, but so similar in size and so similar in shape. You know, could almost be the same designer. This is KMaxROM, KMaxROM design. I haven't actually researched that. I must look into that at some stage. But anyway, we're not here to look at the Fox, but there's the Fox from the top. You can see that that is a little bit thicker. Nice with this orange G10 backspacer as well, with a little pop of color. And then let's get them onto the show side so you can see them like that. Yeah, two very good looking knives. As I mentioned to you, I preferred the way that this is done, where you can get your hand a little closer to the blade, but you know, that's subjective, I guess. Weight-wise, yeah, I think the Fox is a little bit heavier. Guys, that's it. I think I've covered off everything. But, you know, what I didn't say is this is actually the first Kansept on the channel, the first Kansept that I am reviewing. And I've had a few of them in my hand and looked them over. And really good quality knives, you know, very, very similar, I suppose, based on the fact that the guy broke away, that Kim broke away from Kaiser. So the same sort of quality as a Kaiser knife, but beautifully presented, really nicely finished off, and good value. So, you know, for what you're getting here, price-wise, this is, yeah, it you know, it sort of undercuts the Wheeze. I think it might even undercut a similar Kaiser knife as well. Might. Right, there we go. One last look at it. Nice piece. Nothing really negative on it, except for, you know, those subjective things. Like I said, I prefer a knife where I can get my hand a little closer to the blade. Guys, I think that's it. That covers it all off. What a relief, you might say. All that's left to say is thanks so much for joining me. I always really do appreciate it when you do. And I would, as I always say, really appreciate it if you would subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time I launch a new video, because as I always say, I would love you to join me more often. And other than that, you go well and God bless.